I'm going to bring up 4 real world examples of some dudes that went into monk mode, some longer than others. They all got results, but I think there is a very clear distinction here that the results were determined by their frame. Now, we're going to go up in frame, in my opinion. So we're going to start with the guy with the weakest frame and move to the guy with the strongest frame. Again, that is my opinion. And after I talk about each one briefly, it's open forum. Like if you want to point at the guy and be like, he's a bundle of sticks, I don't like him, move on to the next guy. It's open forum, guys. Okay, after I do my intro. So let's get started here with 4 real world examples where, if done properly, you can get results. So the first guy here is the one I know the most about because he wrote one of my favorite books. This is F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, F. Scott Fitzgerald, in my opinion, of these 4, did have the weakest frame, and I'll explain why. So basically, his foray into monk mode all started when he got his heart broken by a girl named Zelda. And she told him, basically, you need to make some money or I'm not going to marry you. So right there, we do show him kind of not having frame, where he's like basically doing what she says, but he says that he loved her, so he decided, okay, then I got to start making some money. So he got a copywriting job at a newspaper, making about $90 a month in, I think it was 1919, which translates to about $19,300 per year in today's money. So well below the poverty line. And so he kept sending in his stories, and he got rejected over 100 times. He sold one short story called Babes in the Wood for about today's money $530. So you can't even pay rent with the one story that he sold. And this went on for so long, and he was so broke that Zelda dumped his ass. She's like, "You're broke. I'm leaving you." And so this sent him into a depression. Probably a good example here, like Nuke would say, the wrong reason to go into monk mode. And so it got to the point, and if you know The Great Gatsby, you're probably starting to see some similarities between F. Scott Fitzgerald's life and the novel The Great Gatsby. But what's interesting is it's not The Great Gatsby that made him famous. Bet you didn't know that. A lot of people didn't know that. Basically, he got so depressed and so concerned with wanting to end himself that he started carrying around a loaded revolver with him at all times, so that he could remove himself from the planet on a whim if he so chose to. That's pretty serious. Now, this is where there are results, but I believe that he wasn't able to maintain them because of his weak frame, and he was not his own mental point of origin, clearly. But here's what he did. So he was broke, he was borderline homeless, his girl had dumped him, so he went back to live with mommy and daddy. But while living with mommy and daddy, he basically locked himself in his room, and more importantly, this is interesting, gave up all alcohol. He quit alcohol cold turkey. While he was carrying the revolver around, he was drunk all the time. He was binge drinking because his girl left him. When he went into monk mode, he got rid of the revolver, cold turkey, quit alcohol. He had enough. He's like, fuck this shit. And then he, in isolation, he wrote and polished the novel now known as This Side of Paradise. He submitted it to the publisher, and it sold 40,000 copies. And he became a very rich man. And it got to the point now where the publishers are calling him. That one novel gave him enough wealth so that he could basically start bankrolling his lifestyle. Now, here's where I demonstrate that he didn't have a very strong frame, and so he kind of slipped back into his old ways. Because he made a lot of money, well, guess who hit him up? Zelda. And so he married Zelda, and then what did he and Zelda start doing? They started traveling all over the world, spending all their money on lavish parties and alcohol. And he did write The Great Gatsby in Paris, but believe it or not, The Great Gatsby did not sell as well, and it was not as critically well received as This Side of Paradise. And so ever since This Side of Paradise, his career just went down and down and down and down, and eventually he and his wife died. He right here, he died at 44. because he drank so much.
Mm.
So not a good way to go about it. But look at what happened. So this guy, blue pilled as all get out, doesn't really have a whole lot of frame or mental point of origin. But look what happened when he quit alcohol and locked himself away for just a little bit. He wrote the novel that made him a very wealthy man. So that's my first example, and the one that I'm going to go into the most detail on. What do you guys think about that? Open forum.
Monk mode after you break up with the chick is not a good idea. It is, or when a chick breaks your heart, is not a good idea. You should not lock yourself away from the world because a chick broke your heart. That is the time to go out and seek other chicks, seek your friends, seek challenges, because it's you and your thoughts, and that's not healthy. You need as much distractions as you can, and a lot of people telling you to, like, telling you, hey, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna live, bro. Like, she broke your heart, great, but you're gonna live. Like, you have to live life now. So find your identity again. So that was his biggest mistake.